Hi, folks. Welcome to Follow the Leader, a podcast focused on telling character-driven stories through the use of GM-less tabletop games where we can all take the lead. You can find us on Twitter at FTLcast and at FTLcast.com. We also have a Patreon at patreon.com/FTLcast. Today, we're playing Ironsworn, a tabletop RPG of perilous quests by Sean Tompkin. For those of you who are new to the game, here are the basics. In the Ironsworn tabletop role-playing game, you are a hero sworn to undertake perilous quests in the dark fantasy setting of the Ironlands. You will explore unattracked wilds, fight desperate battles, forge bonds with isolated communities, and reveal the secrets of this harsh land. Most importantly, you will swear iron vows and see them fulfilled, no matter the cost. I'm Zachary Fredrickson. You can find me on Twitter at ObfuscatingGod, as well as the music I do at iambugbear.bandcamp.com, and my pronouns are he, him. Joining me today, we have Jade.
Sup, it's me. I'm Jade. You can find me on Twitter at JadeOxfordRose, and I use they, them pronouns. And if you like hearing me play games, you can also hear me on Dumb Kids Playing Hero, an Animorphs-inspired actual play using a hack of Fudge in the Dark. Check it out.
And I'm also joined by Sam.
Hello, I'm Sam. You can find me on Twitter at SAKalo, and you can find my art at www.samkalo.art. And I use he, him pronouns.
Very cool. Our lines, things we absolutely do not want to see, are homophobia and transphobia, racism, sexism, anti-Semitism, violence against children and animals, sexual assault, domestic violence or intimate partner violence, unwanted pregnancy, and plagues and pandemics. Our veils, things we're fond of addressing but will just fade to black on, steamy situations, graphic descriptions of bodily harm, and terminal illness. Now that we've got all that, let's get started.
Insert funky music here.
The music plays here. And it plays for a while. And then it stops. Hello, everybody. It's me, Zach. I was just talking to you a few moments ago. It's still the same episode. But here's the thing. That thing I said about Ironsworn taking place in the Ironlands, that's not happening today. We're playing in a different world. A different land, though no less harsh. One not a sort of Iron Age, sort of Viking epic, but no, one clutched in endless winter. Yes, this is indeed a sequel, or at least a follow-up to our Lady Winter Protocol game, where you met Kasdalian Hrothgar, as well as the other two characters.
Wow.
I know them, but I was going to give you room to say who they were.
Fair. You also met Miva Namathari, princess of the plant elves.
And Tala of the Druids.
Yes, and Kasdalian Hrothgar, of course, king of the goblins. Now, none of that matters. Well, it doesn't matter. But it's not immediately relevant because we're not actually playing them today. We're playing a different group of adventurers who reside in the Great Burrow that was erected in the wake of their union and the declaration of war on winter. that occurred at the end of last game.
Yeah,
Spoilers.
so they had a wedding, a big ass party in the Burrow as Winter swept the land because we pissed off Lady Winter.
Like, real bad. We pissed her off, like, so bad.
Like, so bad. So we decided, hey, let's go to war with her.
Yeah, well, she was an asshole. She kept like,
oh yeah,
she would like roll in and be like, "Hey, you all need
presents.
to appease me so that I don't destroy you." And yet I am fickle, and your actions may or may not have any bearing on what I do. And so Kaz was like, "Well, my actions are gonna sure as hell have a bearing on what you're gonna do, because you're gonna get pissed off." And that's the only thing that I know for sure I can achieve. So, fuck you, Lady Winter. And other people went along with it, which means that he was right.
But yeah, no. So we had that, and we were like, oh, we should maybe return to that setting sometime. And so here we are. Zach gave a vague pitch of a plot, and Sam and I were like, hell yeah. So here we are. Members of the assembled Goblin Kingdoms under the benevolent leadership.
Oh yeah, of course. They're benevolent.
He's loud.
This is a good monarchy.
Just loud.
He's loud, but he's a good guy. Yeah. Because if he didn't, he'd get murdered.
True.
Probably by his wife, amongst other people. Miva does not
Oh,
take
for
shit.
sure, yeah.
So let's run through the character creation and campaign setup as it is explained in the Lodestar reference book for Ironsworn. It's like a reference guide for the RPG. It's very cool. This is a cool game. It's kind of like PBTA influenced, but it's also set up for what it refers to as co-op play as well as solo play, which is really cool. It's a game you can play by yourself, with a GM, without a GM, with your friends. A lot of different ways you can play because it's got a lot of kind of like conflict setup and resolution tools.
Yeah, and a whole bunch of oracles that you can use to generate things for when you're playing GMless. It's really cleverly written.
It's very clever.
Yeah,
Very
don't take the
cool.
fact that we're using our own setting as a slight against the text. We just had an idea of a thing we wanted to do.
Mm-hmm. And we twisted it so that it would work with this game. So that should tell you what you need to know. Cool. So let's start with characters. Who wants to introduce their character first and run us through the character creation process?
Sure. I will take a whack at this. So first off, Ironsworn has this thing called assets, and you choose 3 of them when you build your character. This is after, obviously, your name. And you can assign your stats first. There are 5 stats in Ironsworn. Edge, which is to do with precision and sort of dexterity-related behaviors. Heart, which is like your charisma. Iron, which is how strong and hardy you are and is also to do with strength. Shadow is specifically how good you are at sneaking and how good you are at lying. That kind of vibe. And wits is your intelligence, your ability to observe, all that good stuff. And a lot of the time they'll advise you to pick your assets before your stats, so you can obviously weigh your stats so they favor the moves that you're likely to want to do. But all the assets give you additional options and bonuses when you make moves, because as discussed, like PBTA systems, a lot of this game is about making moves. But the types of assets you can choose are paths, which give you a vibe for the sort of person your character is and what sort of, obviously, path they have found themselves on at this point in their life. You can pick companions, that good animal variety. I think they're not all animals. There might be a couple of other options. I'm not sure. I didn't look at companions.
Yeah. One of them is like kindred, which is like other people of your people.
Yeah.
Like your sidekicks.
Mm-hmm. You can choose combat talents, which is obviously like your preferred way of fighting that gives you special little moves and tricks. And there are also rituals. Anybody can effectively be a caster of sorts in this game, but you're limited in what you do in your scope. So you can pick these rituals, which is an ability you have to tap into the magic of the world. So, and you've also got stuff like momentum that'll come into play later, but it's a mechanic by which you sort of build that up as you go to make things more effective, more powerful, etc. And then you've got your basic sort of health, spirit, supply. These are numbers that'll make more sense when we get into play. For today, I'm going to be playing Morden Faraday. You know him in the past as an asshole warlock, asshole pirate, and asshole fallen angel, if you support us on Patreon. But today, instead, not only is he not a warlock, he's not human or an angel either. He is a hobgoblin, which in this setting is sort of like a anthropomorphic weasel muscle. There's definitely something weaselly about him. Got that pointed nose, the good dark eyes. Still got that mop of hair. Bit of a shady motherfucker, as one might imagine. And his stats reflect that because he has a 3 in shadow, 2 in edge and heart, and 1 in iron and wits. And his assets are his path is the trickster. His combat talent is slinger, referring to a sling, alas, not cool fantasy guns. And he has the ritual shadow walk. And that's him. I'll explain what that does when it comes up.
Hell yeah. Sam, do you want to tell us about your character?
Sure. I'm going to be playing a boy named Mur Smith. You may remember him as an orc. In this game, he is a troll, but he is a big, soft boy. And by boy, I mean man. He's like older here. My path is veteran, so he's been fighting for quite a long time at this point. He has a companion of a horse, but it's not actually a horse. I think we talked about making him a big mountain goat or something. He's just some sort of large pack animal. We'll decide this more later, I think. And my combat talent is Thunderbringer, which I will discuss when it comes up. But what it basically means is I got a big hammer.
You'll love to see it.
Classic Mur Smith. Cool. And your stats?
He's got 2 edge, 3 heart, 2 iron, 1 shadow, and 1 wits. Not very smart, but he's very kind.
Not very quick either.
No, he's also not very quick.
What about you, Zach? Who's your character this time around?
This time, we've got 2 returners, which means that I have to continue my trend of always making up new characters as much as possible. With Halfdan Old Dog.
Old Dog.
Good name.
Old Dog. Yes, an elder within the Bugbear tribes in the new Goblin Kingdom that was forged by Kazdelian Hrothgar. Halfdan Old Dog is an old, graying, muzzled bugbear. No longer big and strong, now kind of just wiry and kind of tough in the way that old men can be. My path at this point is Story Weaver. I have a companion who is a raven named Braca, and I have the Ritual of Augur, where I can summon a flock of crows and ask them questions. Got a very Corvid kind of vibe going on.
There's a theme.
Kind of an Odin sort of thing. He does only have 1 eye. And my stats are as follows. Edge 1, Hearts 2, or Heart 2, Iron 1, Shadow 2, and Wits 3. Smart, charismatic, cunning, but he doesn't have the speed or strength of his old self.
But he does have 2 hearts. Sorry.
Yes, like all bugbears, of course, in the set.
They got a big body. You got to pump that blood around.
Yeah, for sure. Like Krogans. Yeah. So that is my character, Halfdan Old Dog. Oh boy. I keep like reading this and being like, no, this is gonna be easy, and then I get there and it's like, oh man, there's a lot here. So So that's characters. We've created our characters. They've all got their assets. They've all got their stats. We all have a bunch of moves. There are 5 different types of moves: adventure, relationship, combat, suffer, and quest and fate. It's like a 6 types. If you count quest and fate, it's different because they're just on the same page. So the next thing is to create our world. This will probably be a little bit different than the normal kind of process because, like, we've already kind of got some stuff. So the way that it works in Ironsworn is there's an exercise, right, where you go through a number of questions and establish what is the true answer of them. But we're not...
We could maybe...
Yeah.
I was going, we could maybe use these categories and come up with a truth that relates to each of them for the sake of shaping things and giving us a bit of a vibe.
Sure.
They start on page 123.
Yeah.
The sections.
Mm-hmm.
So the first category is the old world, or I suppose in our case, because the rise of King Kazdelian has happened fairly recently. Maybe it's like how things were before.
Yes, how things were before his rise and the subsequent fall of winter, of eternal winter.
Mm-hmm. So the text, and these are really well written. They give a lot of flavor. So I suppose we know a little bit about what that looks like. So maybe it's like, what were we doing before this cloak of winter fell upon the land, before Kazdelian rose to power?
So I think those are definitely like 2 different time period. I mean, like, Kazdelian rose to power, and then, like, what was it, like a couple of years later or a couple of months later? Like, because it must have been like a slow process of him rising to power.
Yeah, because he consolidated the goblin folk beneath his rule, and that was a law. That definitely was a process, and there was other stuff involved in that, like, you know, because he at some point found an elf sword, and I know the story behind that. But I mean, so do we want to talk about what we were doing individually during those times, or what, like, society was like?
And I suppose what's more interesting for the story we want to tell today? Like, if Mer, like, thinking about our past, like, so Mer was a veteran, right? Was like, and obviously as, so what does that look like for him? As a, like, how long has he not been a soldier?
Yeah, and actually also, so Mer is a troll in this one. And trolls are like fair folk. So, but they're not goblins. So was Mer working for Miva's kind of faction, or other like fairy courts? Because there was the Red Court in Lady Winter that hosted the ball.
I would say, yeah. I would think that Mer was working first as a smith, hence his name, but in like a sort of an outlying village in the fairy kingdom, rather than, or like, you know, the elven kingdom, rather than as a soldier. And then he was conscripted into the army and spent a very long time fighting, and then retired after the war between the elves and the kingdom of goblins ceased fighting.
And even that, like, even though there wasn't an active war going on when we saw them in Lady Winter, they've still, I imagine there were still tensions. There were still, like, skirmishes and stuff.
Exactly. I would also say that, like, there was a war semi-recently, not like recent, but recently enough that Mer was alive during it.
Sure, but that could also have been hundreds of years ago because you're a troll.
Sure.
You know, or he might, you know, within troll reckoning might not be, but, you know.
Yeah, exactly. He's like middle-aged by troll standards. But that's a couple hundred years old.
Yeah, for sure. Well, so,
what about I just want to say Old Dog. I can't remember his first name already.
Halfdan Old Dog.
Halfdan.
Mm-hmm.
So, you said that the path he's on now is storyteller. What was he before?
Oh, so this is kind of a fun joke for all you Danish king heads out there. Halfdan Ragnarsson was a king before Hrothgar, so he was actually Halfdan is actually a former king of the goblins. He was deposed by Castellion.
Uh-huh.
How's he feel about that?
Pretty good. His grandson's doing well for himself.
Goblins.
Goblins.
Yes, he is Castellion Hrothgar's grandfather and was the previous leader of the Bugbear tribe, or one of them, the clan's head, before Castellion got this whole thing started. And he's like, well, I mean, you did it, so I can't be mad.
Fair. I think then Morden is probably younger than both of you, though not necessarily a young man, but just like maybe mid-30s rather than like middle-aged or like a grandfather type age. So, and there are always those sneaky motherfuckers around who pay attention to what way the wind's blowing and how they can get ahead. But he's not malevolent or anything like that. He's just good at what he does, which is being a sneaky bastard. He's probably been a spy for various people. It's just occurred to me I may be describing Double Trouble from She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, and to be honest, that's kind of a good vibe. Really, Morden wants to live comfortably. Being a hobgoblin is not the easiest of lives. People mistrust you generally, so he just decided to go all in. And it's one of those things, since like this big gathering of the clans under the banner of Castellion happened, sort of like he's kind of been a little bit out of work, as it were, because everybody's like getting on now. For the most part. Like, there's still shady dealings to be done. People want information on other people. But it's been the wrong kind of climate for him to truly excel. But he's made himself available to Castellion and the Queen. Just like, yo, this is my skill set. But he's sort of like adjusting, I suppose, to civilian life in a very different way to Halfdan and Myr. But I like that all three of them are just like, okay, so things have kind of significantly changed. What do I do now?
So what are they doing now? I mean, I guess we know what Morden is doing now, but we've said that Halfdan is now just a storyteller. How is he sort of functioning in the current society of the borough?
So storyteller is kind of like the title, but it's like what he is an advisor, like like an older council, not like a council in the CIL, but he counsels in an SEL kind of way.
Oh, I got a pitch for you. What if like storyteller is like it's somebody old enough to know what has gone before, but like, and when advice is asked, you phrase it like a story, so it's less like.
Absolutely.
But it's like, when I was young, just knee-high to a grasshopper, this is how things were. And that's like, because then they would be, oh God, Grandpa, always with the stories, but with the stories comes wisdom and knowledge. So
yes, absolutely. That is kind of the vibes. Yeah, like the storyteller, there is wisdom in stories and in knowing. Like a lot of them are like proverbs or parables.
Yeah, it's like remembering the lore as well. Like it's like an oral history of the clans as well.
Yeah,
but that are told via stories. Because I imagine for a lot of goblins, they're probably not big on written history.
No, not in Pathfinder or here. He's like a skald.
Nice.
Yeah,
good shit.
And he has his old raven. Braca, who is is sly, but is also a smart little guy who can talk a little bit, and it probably helps him with that. And he can ask questions of the crows, and so yeah, he's like a kind of like a skald, like a wise man kind of storyteller, prophet type.
Nice. Nice.
Mur is he's gone back to sort of what he knew before the war. He's gone back to smithing, but he has sort of followed Miva's court. Whoever she decided to bring with her, because obviously she hasn't brought everybody with her. Her kingdom still exists separate from the Great Burrow, ruled over by her mother, who's still very much alive and very much, continues to be in charge. And so he came with her retinue to sort of make a new life separate from the war and his role in it as a smith, and to bring, elf craftsmanship, as we talked about in the previous series, the previous couple of episodes we did, how elven craftsmanship was very, advanced and beautiful and all this stuff, and so he's bringing that to the Great Burrow.
Sure.
Nice.
And I'll say, I think the Great Burrow is like a central hub that is connected to a lot of smaller boroughs through warrens,
Good shit.
underground tunnels, almost like the palace, or like a central hub of a larger underground city. Not dwarf but goblin or hobbit .
Yeah, I like the notion, burrowing animals and stuff like that. Like the goblinoids of this world have got that sort of vibe to them. In the same way that bugbears are all big and fluffy, other goblins look closer to that than our usual sort of greenish, greyish skinned sphinx cat-esque creatures.
Wrinkly.
Yeah, we definitely picked a kind of goblin, a kind of creature for the goblins last time, I forget. Back in the day in the old heads know they used to be raccoons. But probably they're little burrowing types, like gophers. Another
They're
kind
just
of
little
creatures.
guys.
Oh, you got a case of goblins. Yeah, your crops are fucked.
Mhm. Yeah,
Alright.
gophers and moles and such. They're underground people. Yeah. So that's kind of the world before a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
I actually had an idea about iron, because a big part of this game, Ironborn, is swearing iron vows, becoming iron sworn, and ostensibly in the original sense that was kind of this kind of scarcity iron thing. And it was special iron that would glow red when you touched it and swore your vow, and that makes it an unbreakable vow. But we're all fae. We're goblins and trolls and fairies and stuff. And I think it would be kind of cool if, to make these kind of vows even more kind of important and dire, is if we swore them on cold iron.
Oh,
Ooh.
dang.
Like you have a little ring or coin or something that you keep wrapped up so it doesn't touch your skin unless you're swearing on it, because it's I'm going to give myself a little bit of pain by touching this substance to let you know how much I mean this.
That's rogue. It's figuratively, it feels a little bit like a blood oath. You would cut a part of your body and bleed a little, and this is just I like the notion of touching. Oh, see, my brain went in a darker place than having just a piece of cold iron on you, but I like yours more. But touching it and getting a burn or something from it, just a callus or a mark or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no, it's good. I really like it.
You squeeze it in your hand and it
Yeah.
leaves an imprint in your palm while the vow is still undone.
Yeah, what if making the vow is you have to hold on to this cold iron piece in your hand while you speak the vow?
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Sick. Alrighty, so the next category is legacies.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously in the core text, it's about humans in the land. But I think we talked a little bit about this, this being the burrowing folk. And this is sort of our lands or lands where we've come to make our home in Mer's case. So,
Yeah, but there's also the lands outside of the borough, because by being below, there is something above, and that I
Sure.
think is where most of our adventure is going to take place.
Mm-hmm.
Like the borough is comfortable, but there's other things around, up on the surface.
Absolutely.
It's a land of endless winter, and there are things that can thrive there, like giants, maybe.
And that's a fun thing to maybe think about, because one of the categories is also horrors.
Mm-hmm.
So I just like the notion of like things that can not only stand the cold but thrive in it.
Yeah, like frost giants and winter wolves and ice
Yetis.
trolls, yetis. Yeah, and there's still humans out there making their way in this world of endless winter. Not everyone wanted to come to the burrows and live underground in our warm tunnels and halls. Yeah.
Is the whole world winter or just where we live?
We don't know. We
Okay.
would have no way of knowing. For us, it's the whole world. But that might just be because we don't have access to travel more than 100 or 1,000 miles.
I like that. Like, people have been sent, but as far as like members of the clans are able to travel, we can't see an end to it yet.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so there very well could be lands deep in the distance where the sun yet shines and it is summer, but we can't get there, so it doesn't matter to us.
Sounds good.
And I think that's like a very Goblin's, like, if we don't know that it's there, it's not real.
Love that good object permanence.
Yeah. And it's kind of like a practical thing, and it's also just like a philosophical of like, who cares if we can't find our way there.
I actually saw, I forget the person's name, big TikTok person, but saw on Tumblr earlier today. She's like, asking them, like, how do you not give in to existential crises? And the response was, just remind yourself, it's not my business. none of my business how the world works. And I was just like, if it's not goblin business, I'm not going to worry about it. Like, is it affecting us? No? Okay. I don't need to think about it.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that as a very pragmatic approach. Just like when it becomes something that will affect us, we will concern ourselves with it.
Mm-hmm.
So I dig it.
So yeah, till then we got everything we need. So who cares? Or do we?
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Do we want to do any more of these world building, or do we feel like we've got enough of a vibe of the world to maybe look at bonds?
Yeah. I mean, we could. It's like the communities, which is really cool. So we live in community. We live in the Great Burrow, and that connects to the other boroughs of the Goblin Kingdoms.
Mm-hmm.
And other people live in villages above ground, in the distance. The great tree and the great forest like grapples with its own kind of winter chills. But I don't know. We need any specific stuff about that. Leaders, we know our leaders, which is Kath and Miva. And
I was going to say, for the sake of communities, I like the thought that communities are not necessarily becoming more insular, because that's not what I mean, but there's safety in numbers and warmth that way. So like what used to maybe be sprawling villages, like people are moving into like long houses and keeping it in space. So what resources you have.
They're consolidating more.
Exactly that. And so what communities there are almost like further apart as they've coalesced around central points. So maybe communities have become almost like bigger but further apart as a result. Or like, and denser, I should say, because like population density.
Mm-hmm. Maybe. And people probably there are probably like a class of like ranger type scouts or travelers, outriders who like can move between these places.
Yeah.
But it's getting harder and harder.
Mm-hmm. Love that.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
Yeah, and then, we've got our king and queen, and then elsewhere is the great forest, the big tree. The lands of man probably still have whatever king that knight swore to.
There is probably like a druid enclave nearby, like, or maybe they've like moved into part of the tunnels as part of the great consolidation, as it were, because it's safer and like they have minimal control, or they can exert more control over the elements. So maybe they're like responsible for growing food in now this oppressive winter. So
the shaded glen.
Yes, I love that.
It might be interesting if the druids sort of split between the burrow and like the great tree.
I think maybe they move between and they can like turn into animals and like traverse the cold better.
Ooh, I like that too.
Yeah.
So maybe actually there's a small, but maybe the druids are more scattered than they used to be because their talents are needed in more places. So
that's good.
Alrighty.
Yeah. The next thing's defense, which is about like sort of militaristic forces, like what the kind of established size of an army or fighting force would be in the Ironlands. I definitely think it's pretty hard to muster an army in this kind of climate.
Absolutely. I also think though, but there's also less immediate threats. It's just like because of it being harder to travel. So while there is this ongoing concept of the war against winter, it's not necessarily a war on the ground with foot soldiers.
No, it's a war of attrition.
So maybe it's like what this looks like more is people learning magic to try and do their best to grow food and to travel in this kind of environment and things like that, like ways to shore up defenses. That's what it looks like, not like forging weapons, but instead like expanding the burrow system so we can get around underground rather than having to go out on top. That's what defenses means here.
Yeah. Like, Mur's not making weapons, he's making shovels, basically.
And picks and stuff. Though, up on the surface, they don't come down to bother as much. There is stuff up there. And the humans are probably having their own kind of issues.
I feel like people make fighting forces, but it's like very much because with these, again, back to the communities, people do what they can, but I suppose there's no large-scale fighting forces because there isn't the resources to equip them.
Yeah. Which, like bandits it's harder for a bandit to operate because there's less trade to work on, but there are, I'm sure, people up there who are becoming desperate in that way.
Yeah. For sure.
It's almost like an apocalypse. Or it's coming towards one.
Apocalypse, but chilly.
Snowpocalypse.
Snowpocalypse.
We sort of addressed mysticism already, which is like the druids.
Magic. This place got a lot of magic going on if you can harness it. In a way, maybe just this magically enforced winter has kind of increased the general flow of magic power.
I like that a lot.
Yeah.
It's like, because, Lady Winter, like, shoots a bunch of magic into the world to make this forest. But that means that there's more to go around.
Yeah. Also, and I know this is something we've had in other worlds, but what if, without knowing, the Grey Burrow and the surrounding communities, and even above land too, but that maybe don't realize it, is the tunnels instinctively have been following ley lines, but after Lady Winter did her tantrum, like it's almost like when you hit something that's already cracked and the crack spreads, it's like almost like more ley lines have split off. Or like a Lichtenberg scar. And the ley lines have done that, and that's part of why there is, again, that more access to magic. Maybe it's like in the same way that you might find I forget the term in mining, where you get like a piece of a vein. There we go. Like it's literally like veins of magic in the way that you might see a vein of ore. So,
I like that
Very
a
cool.
lot. That's really good.
and I like the thought that maybe that's why rituals are becoming more common, because people are learning different ways to interact with this new magic that maybe haven't had access to it before. There's definitely a few goblins that have absolutely accidentally blown themselves up. Not like in a lethal way, but there's definitely like periodic explosions.
You know,
Sure.
there's a goblin Reuben running around.
Exactly that.
Mhm.
Sweet.
Cool. Religion. I don't know that we touched much of that.
I mean, this is a world where like magic is very real. I feel like maybe there is like a couple of like goblin gods or whatever, but for the most part, it's just sort of like, they're doing that. Like that whole thing we were saying earlier about if it doesn't concern me, I'm not going to think about it. I feel like gods are maybe of a similar nature. Just like, look, they're doing their thing, we're doing our thing. Don't badmouth them, and they'll leave you alone. I like the notion that maybe there's a bit of a reverence or
Yeah.
begrudging respect towards whatever gods there are. Obviously, that's just maybe the prevailing attitude amongst like goblin folk to their gods.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know necessarily about the elves. Elves may be old enough to know better. I don't know.
Yeah.
Elves got that big tree, don't they?
They do have that big
Is the tree their god?
The tree is their mom, but also their
Gotcha.
god. It's a little bit weird.
It's a little avatar.
It's a little like, think like dryads almost.
Yeah, it's the mother tree. I got you. I'm with you.
Yeah.
Like there are things that are divine, but it's not necessarily a god in the way that
Yeah.
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 Maybe also to pay into that, this smothering force of like elemental magic is maybe also suppressing the influence of the divine, because it's
Yeah.
almost like this magic, almost like this buffer of magic in between, and it's like counterintuitive to it. So
It's making it harder to reach the gods because there's this veil of magic in between.
exactly that vibe. Thank you, Sam, for actually being able to verbalize the thought I was trying to have.
Mhm.
No problem.
Cool.
All right. Any more? We've touched on sort of beasts already, along with horrors.
Firstborn, elves, and giants.
Yeah.
Those are just part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Monsters, horrors, yeah. Not necessarily undead, but I think the middle one in horrors, we're wary of the dark forest, deep waterways, where monsters lurk in those places. In the depths of the long night, when all is wreathed in darkness, only fools venture beyond their homes.
Yeah, I like that.
Like when it's cold and dark, there's things that come out.
Mm-hmm. I think it's that very primal, basic fear of, because you huddle around the fire, it almost like the dark becomes darker away from you. You don't know what is out there.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Yeah.
And just there's a reason we're scared of the dark, kind of a vibe.
Totally.
Cool.
Well, that's all that handled.
So, bonds. Create up to 3 bonds to represent your connections to home, friends, family, or other loyalties. And then we'll make a note of them on our handy-dandy character sheets.
Hell yeah. So I guess my first, like, background bond is, like, my bond to the Elven Kingdom and specifically, like, to Queen Meva. Or I guess those are 2 separate ones.
To a community or an individual. If you're playing guided or co-op, you can use these starting bonds as your connection to the other player characters. Otherwise, you may establish bonds with the characters through play.
Yeah, we should probably figure out why we know each other and how we know each other.
Yeah, that's probably the best way to go for here.
True.
So there's only 2 of each. There's 3 of us total. So my first bond is with Kaz, and then I can have a bond with each of you.
Nice. Sorry, I'm just like scrambling through various parts of this sheet. Has a lot of information on it.
Yes, it
does.
Because the bonds tab doesn't appear to have a place to put names. So
if you click add, doesn't it like start off with name?
Yeah. It
there
opens.
we go.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah, I don't know how bonds are supposed to be like structured,
They're like,
though.
I think
So
you have them with
these
a
bonds
character.
may be to a community or an individual. You do not need to make the forge a bond move for these starting bonds. Mark a tick for each bond on your character sheet and make note of them. If you're playing guided or co-op, starting bonds, yes.
It's one of those things where you like add to it as you go on, and it gives you access to certain moves, or it's how you use certain moves when you have a bond with somebody.
Okay.
In the same way, I think that a lot of like PBTA systems have like bonds with your player characters, and you can like act on your bonds and stuff like that. I think that's the best way to sort of think about it.
Yeah.
Trying to think who Morden's third bond might be. Fuck it, I'm gonna make it. I might make it the community. Just like I might make it the Ferida clan.
Cool. Is the rest of your family kind of sneaky types, or are you like a black sheep?
You'll never know. Yeah, no, I think they're all like of a similar nature.
Something cool that I saw is that when you retire, so like as you mark bonds, you mark ticks on your bond like tracker, and when you retire your character, you add up all of them, and that it becomes part of like how your epilogue goes.
That's dope.
That is
The
pretty
epilogue
cool.
is affected by how many connections you make.
That's cool. But yeah, I think the Ferida is a very large clan, and there's probably a lot of them in a similar kind of line of work. I think Morden is specifically very good at certain aspects of it. Has maybe gone poking at certain veins of magic. You know what I mean? Just sort of like, I'm good at what I do, but I could be better at what I do. Mama Faraday is very proud, I'm sure. It's like, my asshole son.
That's how we all feel about Morden.
I mean, that's my goal.
I don't think I've played with Morden before.
Yeah, you haven't. No, I've only played him a couple of times on main feed. He's my attempt to make an arsehole character.
And I remember he was an NPC.
He started as an NPC in the Karma game that me, Sam, and Mab played. And then I played him in Ocean Tides, and he's been in Patreon content. So I think that's it for main arcs. But yeah, he was my attempt to make an arsehole character, and he tends to end up nicer than my intent. But he always starts with my intent of him being a bit of an asshole. So I suppose he's self-serving. So he's not... I'll level with you, Zach. You were having so much fun playing Hereafter and his interactions. I'm like, I need me one of those. Plonk. Here is more.
Hereafter is fun. The thing that I find fun about Hereafter is that he's not actually an asshole.
No, but he has a vibe, which is incredibly good.
He does have a vibe. That's true.
It's very impressive to me that you've made a character that doesn't actually really do bad things, but gives off such an aura of being an asshole that people don't trust him.
And who has
So
done
true.
bad things in his backstory.
Yes, but we don't see them on screen.
Mm-hmm.
But what are our bonds like with each other? Give them a vibe. Or like you were saying before, how do they know each other?
Yeah, because we're going to be engaged in some stuff.
Some stuff indeed.
I feel like maybe if you're obliged that Morden has done work for Half Done before.
Sure.
Like in whatever role. Like Morden's old enough to have maybe been doing errands and stuff for the clans, and like hobgoblins can get places where bugbears can't. So
It's because you got cartilaginous spines.
sure, if you think so.
Yeah, because they're just so wriggly. We said weasel, I'm imagining a ferret now.
Ferret's good. I mean, when I say mustelid, I'm just like that whole vibe of furry noodle that wriggles.
Mm-hmm.
Good.
That's the very like a pine marten, stoats, that whole family of furry noodle boys with pointy faces.
It just makes me think about the ferret that used to run through the pipes to clean them out at like one of the big like particle colliders.
Yes. But yes. So I feel like Morden has a decent amount of respect for Halfdan, just sort of like, yeah, always pays up on time. Like we'll talk on a bit, but you know, trust.
Yeah.
I feel actually. I tell you what, he thinks Halfdan is trustworthy, but in that sort of, wouldn't trust not to sell him out, but at least to do it to your face kind of a vibe. And that's, I think, how Morden views a lot of things. Like, if I piss off Halfdan, he's going to stab me. He's not going to get somebody else to do it. And I like that in a man.
Yeah.
It's not quite the vibe of Shadow and Mr. Wednesday in American Gods, but a little bit of that energy, for sure.
I'm going to put down, and for my descriptors for us, is mutually beneficial and professional respect.
I like that.
Nice. Are we having like one bond with each of the other 2-player characters?
Yeah.
That's what I did, because we have 3. So I did one for like my backstory and then one for each.
Got it.
So Mer's like the most recent to this place of the 3 of them. So
yeah, how long after the long winter sets in are we setting this game?
that's a good question.
Long enough for a routine to have emerged, I think.
It's like maybe 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, long enough for a new like for us to be like, this is like this is the way things are now, in for better and worse.
Yeah. Like, not long enough for like children, long enough for there to be children that don't remember a life before.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So yeah, Mur is recent, but not like that recent. Like he came with like, you know, I want to say like, you know, because Miva and Kaz basically like rode kind of directly here from the end of Lady Winter, but all of Miva's stuff had to show up at some point once it was decided that she was sticking around. So I feel like Mur probably showed up like with that retinue of people of like, oh, she's sticking around over there. All right, well, let's send her, you know, what she needs to start her life.
I dig that. I guess if this is several years, do Mur and Miva have any kids?
You mean Kaz and Miva?
Kazdelian, yes.
Yeah.
Kaz and Miva.
Do Miva and Kaz have any children? I want to say yes, mostly because I want to draw them.
Sure.
What the fuck would their children even look like?
Little plant buggers, or little furry elves.
Oh my god. Yeah, I'd say they probably have a kid or 2.
I will say probably that Halfdan is still a little untrustworthy of all this elf folk.
Yeah.
We did have a generations-long conflict between our 2 societies. Jesus Christ.
Sorry.
Oh God, has the drawing of babies begun?
No,
No,
I put the fucking hamster banana emoji in chat.
You're going to hell, Samwise.
Anyway.
Sorry.
Yes. So Halfdan is like, you are, Big Troll Man, Big Boy, you are an enemy combatant. We have met on the field of battle.
Oh, that's so good.
Maybe not you and I specifically, but I have fought against the troll shock troops of the Elven army. And you are one of them, and now you're here? It was one thing when Kaz brought home his new girlfriend. It was another when she brought her whole family in. And all of her servants.
No, I like that.
I love this crotchety old man bugbear, just like, oh, why couldn't he have married, a nice Catholic girl? Yeah, a nice
I understand the thing was about uniting the people, but did you have to unite all of them? It's me, Halfdan Old Dog. I'm so pissed off all the time.
And then here's me doing my stupid little southern accent for Mur.
This is good. This is the best combination of accents there could be. I'm resisting the urge to make Morden more Cockney, just in response.
I love it.
Just like
yeah,
Gangy
I
Green.
feel like Mur probably doesn't trust Halfdan either. More out of a sense of like, oh, you're part of the old guard from those who don't trust my folk, which,
it doesn't.
fair.
It doesn't help that Halfdan's old war helmet has troll horns on it.
No, Jesus fucking Christ.
He's like, yeah, I was a Monster Hunter player character, and you were the monster.
Lordy.
God.
God, I always think about how horrifying it is in, like, games where the enemy is clearly, like, a thinking, feeling, like, person, like, still using parts of their body. Like, like, using,
Yeah, I mean,
like,
it's still weird,
Mhm.
like, dragons in, like, dragon bone armor in D&D or whatever, like, any fantasy setting where dragons are both
like,
sapient.
that was a person. Like, hey, that was a person.
Yeah. And now they're my sword. Though, to be fair, some people made armor out of people, too.
It's true. It's true.
Yeah, so mistrusting. I need another descriptor for another kind of dimension of how Halfdan feels about Mur.
I like that you're, like, being, like, very, like, my description literally says, we met on the field of battle, does not, all caps, like that Halfdan has troll horns on his helmet.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I've written here.
I know, I suppose it could be just like, you should take the fact that I don't trust you as a I respect your abilities kind of a vibe, if that makes sense. Just like, or you don't underestimate him, because this is a large, strong troll man who's up in your shiz.
I'm going to say mistrusting, but forcing self to try to get along.
I like that.
Like,
Yeah.
I know this is the best thing, and I am going to be fighting myself to not, like,
I like
pull
that.
a spear.
Got it. Yeah. And I think Mur is mostly just, like, trying to push past the, like, I'm skeeved out by your creepy horned helmet, but I'm being nice because this isn't my original home, and so I, stepping on eggshells a little bit.
This is my queen's grandfather-in-law. I really can't afford to kick off here. It's a really long walk back to the mother tree, and it's fucking cold outside. I cannot get kicked out of this place.
Mm-hmm. Halfdan, he's a crotchety old grandpa, but he's like, I will teach this old dog new tricks myself. But I won't like it.
What do we want for between Mur and Morden? What would be fun to play out, do you think? Because I'd like to maybe there be one. There should be like a good. Mur should have a positive.
I was gonna say,
dynamic
like, just hit it off immediately.
Yeah, it's like a bro.
I do like that. Instant friend. Instant friends.
Despite, like, their odd couple kind of nature.
Yeah, I do like the visual of, like, this hench AF troll and this fucking ferret man just being like, Morden isn't as tall, but, like, definitely comes up a long way because of that whole long string bean vibe. So
just like real. I'm sorry. I'm just imagining like real little arms and legs and just like a big spine, like a
no.
little T-Rex hands.
I'm gonna put instant friends, odd couple energy.
Yeah.
Mm. Oh yeah. I do like the idea of Morden having a really long torso though.
Oh yeah, no. He's tall, but just like proportional limbs.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
So.
I'm just thinking about what ferrets look like,
Ferrets are the silliest animal.
They're just ridiculous. I love them.
And they love to dance.
Okay, you know what? Their bodies aren't nearly as fucked up as I thought they would be.
I think, but it's when you think about what a ferret looks like in your head, it does get a bit like caricaturized. Like, very short limbs, very long body. That's not quite like a. Yeah, you sort of picture them a little bit like a dachshund, kind of in proportions, but they don't quite look like that.
Yeah. No, but I'm like looking at ferret skeletons, and they actually have a lot more arm in their body that you don't see because of their fur.
Yeah. But alrighty, so that is our bonds with each other.
Yeah, so those are our bonds. We also, everyone picks a sworn quest of a background vow for their character, which is like the sort of swearing an iron vow. It's like part of, which is like part of it. So the kind of vibe of Iron Sworn is this is a game about defining and filling progress bars and having fun doing it. If Blades is all about clocks, this is all about them bars.
Hell yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, you declare a quest, you say how hard it's going to be, and then you pursue that quest. Which is cool. It's a very fun way of like mechanizing your own any sort of story or goal you want to have as the focus of your game. You just define it as your vow, you swear that vow, and you have a mechanical basis for how to pursue it. Which is cool. But we also each have a background vow that is something that our characters care about outside of, like within ourselves, or like our backstory goal.
Mm.
You know, like in Lord of the Rings, right? The quest, the shared inciting incident for the Fellowship is bring the ring to Mordor and destroy it. But they also each have their like backstory vows, which for like Boromir is like bring glory to Gondor, right? And the other ones are other ones. Boromir's was the only one that I could think of. I guess the hobbits each have the survive this as a background.
Well, Sam's is look after Frodo.
Yeah, Sam's is protect Frodo. Gimli's is like, do cool shit. Eventually he gets to the vow of
then he gets a boyfriend. It's great.
Yeah.
Get boyfriend. Yeah. It's not his background vow, but he does get it.
That's a bonus.
Aragorn's background vow is don't get pulled back into Gondor's bullshit, that he later forsakes it.
Yeah, I was about to say, he doesn't succeed very well on that one.
No, but you can also forsake your vows in this game. And that's got its own sort of mechanical fallout. But yeah, so I've written one for Halfdan.
What you got?
Which his vow is make sure that Casdelian's kingdom doesn't falter and that the boy keeps his head. Just gotta make sure that this kid makes it through this. And I don't know if we're supposed to set the difficulty of that ourselves ahead of time. Yeah, extreme or epic. So this is an extreme quest.
Okay.
That's on page 195. When you write your background vow, it is an extreme or epic quest because it's something that you're pursuing this whole time.
Yeah. Morden's vow is to master shadow magic. I'm gonna maybe work on making it a little bit more elaborate, but it's like become a master of shadows, not just a part of them. Because I'm looking at his ritual that he has, the Shadow Walk one, and like if you have like a weak thing, like you can be led astray. And I like the notion of him just like, and it's part of this gathering power thing that he's desperate to do as well. So that's the vibe for him, and that's definitely an extreme one.
I think Murs is very simply like do whatever he must to support and protect Queen Miva. Like that's the duty he was given when he became part of this retinue. Picked up everything he owned and trudged halfway across the world.
For sure.
Yeah. I guess that one's extreme because, like, she's pretty capable of protecting him. But,
Yeah, I've tweaked Moderns to not just walk in the shadows, but master their ways.
Ooh, very sexy.
Hell yeah. Very cool. Our formal life, our sort of background stuff. And now we have to envision our inciting incident.
Well, here's the fun part. Zach already did this when he pitched.
Yeah, have we actually talked about what our quest is yet?
We have
No.
not at all talked about what our quest is. It's been a mystery, but here it is, which is that one day, while the three of us are out scouting, or maybe just, like, hey, Mr. Faraday, I need to stretch my legs, and I'm just an old man. I'm a feeble old man, and I need some protection. And you're going to come with me, and oh gosh, you're bringing the troll with you too. Okay.
Look, no offense, old dog, but I am many things. I am not much of what one would call a protector. You want something that's going to take a hit? You want my good friend Mur. Look how big he is.
He is big.
That's because I am.
This is true.
Hello.
Hello.
Quite large.
Yes, so
nothing
we're
else.
going to go. Braki, he wants to stretch his wings. Braka, he wants to stretch his wings. We're going to go. We're going to have a bit of a time outside. We're going to go for a nature walk. And so we go for a nature walk. We go out, and it is quiet. It's just cold and it's bright. The sun is shining on the snow, filtered through the trees, the pine forest that the burrow is within. When that silence is split by a very distinctive sound. The cry of a human infant, left swaddled in blankets in a cradle, or like a
bassinet, something that vibe.
bassinet. Yeah.
I was thinking like a bread basket. Like, this is not meant for a child, but it is in here.
Oh, see, I was thinking of like the carrier that Willow uses for the princess in Willow, like a backpack. It looks like a little it looks like a basket maybe made for something else, but yeah, it's so you can carry a baby like a backpack.
Yeah. And there's like a note on it that just says, in the human tongue, "We can't feed more mouths. We're sorry." And shit, now we got a baby to deal with. Well, I'm not bringing this home. So I guess what we're going to do is we're going to find someone to take this baby. And that is our quest.
I'm just visually imagining like Mordred like completely bent double and like, like when you hold a ferret and it just hangs there.
Mm-hmm.
Like Mordred's like bent over, like the baby carrier, and just like has been like smacked in the face by this baby. It's just like, so noisy.
Mur would absolutely just very gently pick up this little basket in between like two fingers of either of his hands, because it's so small, because it's for a fucking human.
Mm-hmm.
It's like loop it over one hand.
Yeah, the baby probably fits in the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that is our inciting incident. And I guess at the beginning,
3 Fae and a baby.
3 Fae and a baby. Next time we're going to we need to get this kid to a human settlement that can take it in before it gets hungry or dies or something. We don't know exactly how human babies work. Next time we're gonna swear an iron vow to protect this child,
or at least to try to keep it alive until we can find somewhere else for it.
Welcome to our Ice Age, AU.
Yes, Ice Age, but nobody is Sid.
Yeah, nah, no Sid this time around.
Hi, it's August, and I just wanted to thank you for listening. If you've enjoyed us, please consider leaving a rating on your podcast platform of choice, telling your friends about us, or tweeting about us using the FTLcast hashtag. We are also part of a nonprofit podcasting guild called Standing Stones Productions. We do a variety of shows, including The Room Where It Happened and Dumb Kids Playing Hero, 2 actual play shows, and a Steven Universe discussion podcast called Gay Space Rocks. We also do live streams at twitch.tv/StandingStonesProd. You can keep up with everything that we do on Twitter at Stones_Standing. Unfortunately, Standing Stones was already taken. Your support means a lot. Thanks again!